The last few years has seen a real explosion of interest in fast, funky, stylish, outboard-powered sports boats. It all started off when Axopar entered the market, swiftly followed by Nimbus and then Saxtor. But now there's a new player in town. This is Dromeas Yachts. Now, whereas Axopar and Saxtor are both designed in Scandinavia and built in Poland, Dromeas Yachts is a Turkish company. So Dromeas do the design of the deck and the rest of the layout, but the underwater sections are done by a British raceboat designer called Adam Younger. So really nice looking, sweet hull. It's a twin step design, nice deep V, but quite an unusual full bow. So it's not quite vertical, but you can see it's relatively narrow down at the bottom where it cuts through the water and then flares out to give a nice kick of the water out away from the boat, so it's a nice dry boat on board and that distinctive almost vertical shape. So what else do we know about the boat? They do 3 different versions of it. This is the CC, the centre console. They also do a walk around version and an SUV wheelhouse. We'll have a look at those hopefully in the future, but this is the first boat to arrive in the UK and this is the centre console. Now, they're a sandwich construction, so you can see these nice big chunky mouldings, really good walk around decks. You can see how tall the bulwarks are all around here, and this goes all the way forward. You can walk right around the boat. See, there's plenty of these cleats. There's one at the stern, one in the middle, another up at the bow, nice and chunky. And this is where you can see the advantage of that big beamy bow section. So even though it feels really nice and broad up here, underneath where the hull is actually in the water, it's relatively narrow. But what it does mean is you've got a lovely seating area here you can use. Got nice backrests, and there is a table that slots in here. We'll put that up for you in a minute and show you what it looks like, but it's a really nice sociable area. You can all sit around here, and then there's another seat tucked at the front of this centre console where you can sit in a rather fine throne, nicely held in place, and you can actually join in when the table's up, so you've got seating all the way around the table. As well as being a nice place to sit, there's some quite practical features around this area too. So underneath these seats, we just pull up that cushion. There's some good storage here. And what I like about this is, rather than just a simple locker, they've bothered to put a proper strut on there. It pops up with it, so it's nicely sprung. And you can see it's all nicely moulded out. No rough surfaces on the GRP. So plenty of storage, the same under that cushion. The only slight bore about it is that the cushion that sits there, it pops into place, which holds it nice and secure, but it does mean that you can't actually open that locker without taking the cushion off first. But that's one of those compromises you're going to have to live with. Now, the other thing about this area may not be too important in the UK, but in the Mediterranean, it's very nice. You can set up a canopy. There's little hooks on the side of this T-top here, and some supports for the poles in here. So you can actually shade this whole area under a nice canopy, which when you're out in the blazing sun makes quite a difference. Up in the bow, got an anchor locker, and this one is fitted with an electric windlass with a through hull anchor that sticks out through the bow. So again, nice, simple, neat design, all again on a nicely sprung locker. A little bit stiff, but that's probably just because it's a brand new boat. And these little black bow rails, I rather like the contrast between the glossy black bow rails and these stainless steel cleats. Now under here, lift that up. Again, on a couple of rams to just take the weight off it. There's actually a really decent sized heads compartment. So have to go in backwards really to make the best of it. But when you're in here, it's actually really nicely fitted out. You know, they've bothered to put some nice lining on the sides here. Got a little opening hatch. And then over on this side, so a couple of lockers. Really just gives access to most of the breaker switches actually, but there's a little bit of storage in there and then a bit more storage down this side. But it's just nice to actually fit it out with some proper wood locker doors rather than just leave it moulded out. And you can see this is all sort of nicely, smoothly finished. And there's lots of little access points. This isn't storage, but it just means you can get to things like the pumps, all the plumbing. There's plenty of access to everything. There is a nice handle there to bring it back down again. It's just a very nice, well thought out boat. Moving round into the cockpit itself, they very much left this as a multi-purpose style boat. So you can have all the seats folded away. I guess if you're into your fishing, that makes a lot of sense. It means you can get right up to the edge of the boat, cast your line over. You can see this particular boat is fitted with a load of rod holders up here. But it does mean then you've got good access to all these lockers. As you can see, there's multiple lockers all around this boat. That one goes down into the bilges for you so you can get to the bilge pump. And then underneath both sides, there's yet more lockers. I think this one is actually fitted out as a live bait well. So if you're really into your fishing, you can keep your live bait in there in a draining locker. The other thing I like about these walk around outboard powered boats is that this is a self-draining cockpit. So however much water gets on board, whether it's spray or rain, it will just drain straight out the back through these drain holes. Another big storage locker under here. If you open up, and as well as all this space here, you can actually see these are the poles for the tarpaulin up front for that sunshade. So you can see nice lightweight carbon fibre poles and a shade there, and then batteries either side. Now, as well as the seating all around here, you've got a built-in wet bar. Nice little sink here. This can be fitted out with a grill. And then underneath the wet bar, got a fridge on this side. I think you can have twin fridges, in fact, if you want. This one has just been left with a locker there, so another handy place to store kit. But nice to be able to have that wet bar permanently in position there. So all these seats fold up, or fold down in this case. So that folds down from there. This one folds up, locks into place, and then one final one. And suddenly you've got a nice sociable seating area. You've got seats on all sides of the boat. These side seats feel a tiny bit flimsy to me. They're not the most secure. Could probably do with a little bit of a stronger base and perhaps a little bit more cushioning if possible. But it does mean you've got the option of having plenty of seating or using it as a bare open fishing boat style. And then finally, at the stern of the boat, we've got the optional tow bar here. You can see there's a hook there for your ski lines. In terms of engines, all outboard options, but you can have single or twins. I think the base engine is a 250 horsepower. We've got a 300 horsepower on board this. You can also have twins, I think up to twin 250s. So plenty of different power options. So that's pretty much a tour of the boat. Let's take it out onto the water, see how it drives. So the Dromeas, it's got an Adam Younger designed hull. It's got twin steps. It's a resin infused sandwich construction hull, so it should be nice and stiff but not too heavy. For power, we've got a Yamaha 300 horsepower 4-stroke outboard, electronic throttle and C-Star hydraulic steering. Now, first thing I've noticed is that it's a little bit tight between the seats and the helm. Got quite a long hub here that just brings the wheel very nice and close to you, which is fine when you want to be close to it, but it just means it's a little bit tight underneath when you're trying to steer quickly. Seats, we've got these nicely bolstered seats. Comes down, and then there's a little footstool underneath, which gives a nice raised perch, something to rest your feet on so they're not left dangling. And actually, if you have these two bolsters up, you get rather a nice little wedge effect, so you're nicely wedged in around your hips. But to drive it, I'm just going to pop it up again. I prefer to stand in these situations, and let's see how she goes. We're in gear, so quiet you can barely hear it. Put a bit of throttle on. So it takes a little bit of time to get up on the plane. We're doing about 14 knots now, and now it's beginning to settle down. The bow's coming down again. Really nice light throttle. In fact, it's so sensitive, it might almost be better adding a little bit more resistance to that throttle, because it's so light it's quite easy to put a bit too much on. Now the steering feels a little bit stiff. When you try and put a lot of lock on, it just loads up a little bit as you try and turn it. It makes it quite hard work. You kind of need both hands on the wheel. But the hull's feeling really nice actually. It's running nice and smoothly. We're doing 25 knots now. And at 25 knots it's burning about 47 litres per hour. So not too thirsty. And it runs very nice and flat. Right, let's put the throttle down and see what kind of speed we get. Whoa, there's plenty of go there. Just going to trim it up a little bit. Now it's really flying. Doing 40 knots, no problem. Knots and burning 102 litres per hour. Feeling pretty good. Lovely. Maybe trim it up a little bit more. 40.5. 41. That feels really nice. Just going to get into a little bit of space. Trim it back down again before we go into a turn. Right, let's try a nice turn. That's tracking really nicely. Just a little bit of cavitation starting to happen. Beautiful. Ease off. So that's really interesting to see, because now we're in the harbour, and at this time of year there is no speed limit in the harbour and the water's a little bit flatter, and it just behaves beautifully in these kind of conditions. It rides nice and softly. We have been out and taken it out in some much rougher stuff off Old Harry Rocks, where there's really quite a swell running and quite a lot of breeze. And actually it does ride well, but clearly we've got quite a big bow up front, reasonably beamy, but actually it doesn't slam a great deal. If you keep it nice and flat, it will ride nice and consistently and not too bouncy, not too bangy. And the other thing we've noticed is that it's actually a really nice dry boat. I think it helps at the helm right here. We've got this wraparound screen, and if you're sitting bang in the middle, you do get good protection. Not quite so good if you're out on the side. It doesn't quite cover you, so you get a little bit more spray and a little bit more wind coming around there. And it's also very nice having this hardtop. It's an optional hardtop, but it's really nice, sturdy, solid build, doesn't shake or move at all. And it just adds to the feeling of a nice, solid, secure boat. Helm nicely laid out. We've got a single chart plotter here in front of us. This one is fitted with a bow thruster. Probably not strictly necessary on a 28-foot boat, but very nice to have. It means you can at least control the bow if it gets blown away. Nice simple layout, all these little backlit switches, plenty of kit here. We've got navigation lights, anchor lights, dot lights, deck courtesy lights, underwater lights, navigation instruments, VHF, plenty of kit on board this boat. A couple of cup holders here, and this I rather like, a little secure glove box. Not huge, but nice to have somewhere dry to put your phone, sunglasses, and properly secure in there. So once they're in there, they stay there. They're not going to bounce out. Buying a boat is all about finding what's right for you and your own personal priorities. Some people, it's all about the driving experience. They want something fast, nimble, deep V. Other people want something that's all about leisure at anchor and having as much space as possible and as many gadgets and home comforts as you can. What I like about this boat is that it's a really nice balance between the two. You've got that twin-step Adam Younger hull that gives strong performance of 42, 43 knots, good efficiency. Okay, there's one or two little things about this first boat that need a little bit of tweaking. The trim tabs need to be set a little bit lower so they're a bit more effective. There's a little bit of adjustment. The steering is a little bit heavy, whereas the throttle is very light. So those probably need to be balanced out. But as I understand it, the next generation of Yamaha engines is going to have electronic power steering anyway. So that should sort that out. But as well as the driving experience, you've also got a really nice usable boat. So you've got this flexible seating area here with a wet bar. You've got that lovely cockpit area up front that you can use as a sun pad or a dinette. Really good walk around decks with plenty of space, lots of good handholds everywhere, and the quality is good too. You know, the fixtures and fittings feel really sturdy, cleats nice and solid, good size, 3 of them, good spec. It's got everything you need. This nice T-top I think is really handy, being able to carry those SUPs. It's just a lovely balance between a full-on performance boat and a practical day boat. The other thing in its favour is price. The base boat with a 250 horsepower engine starts at around about £75,000 Inc VAT. This particular one, with all the kit on it, £99,800, which for a boat of this size in this spec is good value for money.